Hello and welcome to another episode of Michael and Mom Talk Cancer. I'm your official host, Michael Reed Kramer, and this is
the other official host, Ashley, aka Mom Kramer. And yeah, we are so excited. We're always excited by our guests, but this one is a little bit special because this is someone who, as he just shared with us, has not talked so much about his cancer journey. And so we're like the reveal. We're like the cool people.
Yeah, we're like the gender reveal.
I wasn't going to say the gender reveal. I was going to say like when it's like the news.
I think gender reveal is funnier. I don't know.
I don't know, but Hal Eisenberg, oh my gosh, we're honored to have you. Like, I have all your credentials. You're like the coolest guy ever. Social worker. You have impacted so many people. You raise money. Like, you were social worker of the freaking year in New York State. Like, New York
That's
State
crazy.
is like big, and there's a lot of amazing people in New York. You work with people using the arts. Like, I'm not even looking at my notes. This is just everything that's stuck in my head from everything I read about you because it just impacted me so much, everything you do. Plus, you've written fiction, but it's fiction to help people deal with their problems and youth. And oh my God, my mind is blown about you. So thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. The second I saw you I met you guys through another podcast on Rise and Thrive Together.
Yes.
And when I saw you both, I was like, I need to know them. I want to be on their show. I think your story is magical. I think it's empowering, inspirational, and it's just an honor and a blessing to be here and speak with you both.
Thank you.
Oh, that's how I feel about you. I was literally reading everything about you and I was like, who is this man? He's like this artist angel. And then, but okay, we mentioned this before we started recording. When I was reading everything about you, I didn't find any cancer connection, but the person that introduced us said that there was a cancer connection. I was like, Hal, dude, hold up. And you sent me an email and you filled me in. But I think, Michael, what do you think? If you're open to it, Hal?
Yeah, we would love to
hear your story.
Yeah, just hear your story. You can start anywhere.
Yes.
Oh, it's like where do we begin?
I know.
As you know, it's been a roller coaster. You know, so I was diagnosed with bladder cancer 6.5 years ago.
Okay.
I was misdiagnosed about 8.5 years ago. So I was rushed to the hospital. I was driving home from an event from school one day. I was running a church at the time.
Okay.
So I was driving from the school to the church, and I got nauseous all of a sudden. I pulled over and I started vomiting in the street. And thank God I had one of my directors with me because it came on from nowhere. And she called an ambulance, and it was kidney stones. So they had to surgically remove the kidney stones. And then they saw like a real small one, and they were like, it's going to pass on its own. Fast forward to when I was diagnosed, 2 years later, it turned out that kidney stone wasn't a kidney stone. It was actually a tumor. It was like the beginning of the cancer. And that started the journey. It was just a crazy time. It was unexpected, and all of a sudden I started bleeding and got rushed into surgery, and the doctor said I had 4 months to live 6 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. And how did you feel? Because you said it was 2 years before you were diagnosed.
So you probably thought, kidney stones, I've passed it, I'm done, I'm good, yeah. I go back to life.
I went back to life. And the type of guy that I was, always passionate about doing my work, and I was just full steam ahead, and I was putting my health, behind me. It wasn't about me or my health. And, it was just like, got to keep doing. I had this dream. I had this goal, help everyone else. Don't help me. Yeah. Something that I've now learned to shift, through all these experiences. And then the cycle continued because after he told me I had 4 months to live, talking to, I was really blessed. The universe works in mysterious ways. I met this incredible, beautiful soul the same month, and became a spiritual mentor to me. Started sending me books. I just met this person out of the blue. Started sending me books. Study this, watch these videos, and I was like, "What's happening to my life right now?" And the doctor, through speaking to my spiritual mentor and speaking to this doctor, something didn't feel right. So I jumped ship and found another doctor who put me on this immunotherapy drug for about 6-8 weeks, and the cancer was gone. It was so I went into
Wow.
remission. So I was like, okay, universe, this is strange. So I was like, I didn't even tell anybody that I was diagnosed with cancer, because I was like, it's been a couple of months. Like, I don't care. Like, I guess God wanted me to just have that experience. About a year later, going through some trials and tribulations, I went right back to the same routine. Full force, working, not taking care of myself. It was January the following year, about
Wait,
2 months
so
before COVID.
I was gonna say I was gonna say that's 2020, right? Because
Yeah,
2018 was when you were diagnosed, right?
yeah. So
Okay,
two months,
okay,
2 months before December 2018, I was diagnosed.
right,
So,
okay.
so that
And that
January,
was the year that you, I mean, I am making a big deal of this, that you were like the social worker of the year, which I'm imagining did take a lot of effort and work.
yeah,
And yeah, okay.
oh yeah, 1.2 million students in New York City, and I think it's over 100,000 teachers,
Yeah,
and I that's a whole other conversation in itself. But
yeah, I'm
I'm
sure.
very passionate about the education system and the potential to transform it and help reach more and more souls. So I've been blessed. I build programs. I run a lot of events. So I've had a lot of attention on the programs I build, which I guess led to that award. But not thinking about it, right? I was just full force, right? It was like, okay, an award, awesome, thank you, let's keep going.
Right, because your motivation was not the award. You can tell your motivation was students changing lives. I mean, but again, full force ahead, not paying attention to yourself. There is
Right,
something service is huge in the world. We need service. We all need to serve, but not at the detriment to your own health.
right,
There is a line.
right, 100%. And I learned that the hard way, and the universe was like, we're going to stop you.
Wow.
So it was January. I was just home doing work, and I fell over, just like passed out, pain out of nowhere. Um, Rushed to the hospital. More kidney stones, and he says, you know what? He goes, well, I'm going in there to remove the kidney stones. I'm gonna do a biopsy because you're due. Um, and that's when he came back that the cancer had come back, and I think that was the beginning of like the real journey. The real journey deeper into what does this mean? I need to pay attention to this. Um, what's the story? What's the lesson? What's the message here? And
Right.
it's been a wild journey since.
Are you in New York City proper? I know you're in New York, but where are you?
Right now I'm on Long Island, but I am in New
Okay.
York City. Yeah, the
Okay.
five boroughs.
Were you followed up? Because it would seem to me that after the immunotherapy, was the oncologist not following up, or were you not following?
Probably a combination of the both, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
you know, um, I think when they said, "Oh, the cancer was gone," it was just, we'll see you in 6 months. 6 months turned into a year.
Okay.
I was traveling back and forth from here. I was working with an organization up in Toronto. Um, I would travel down to Haiti. I was all over the place, just continuing to do this work that I do. Um, and then, so he said, I want to start the immunotherapy again, because that worked the last time. But then COVID came, hospitals shut down. There was a potential that I was going to be on this new experimental drug. All trials got canceled. And then I got COVID. the
Oh
first
my
onset,
God.
and I
Oh
was in the
my God.
hospital for 3 weeks
Oh
with
wow.
COVID. Yeah, it was, and it was when COVID first hit. So when I went in the hospital, the world was still open. When I came out of the hospital, it was like a ghost town. It was
Wow.
it was mind-boggling to me. So here I am, newly diagnosed with cancer, feeling like death from COVID, and the world is shutting down, and I'm like, what is happening?
I'm
Yeah,
just
Yeah, that's a
imagining.
crazy time.
It's like a movie. It's like a movie, right?
yeah. Some people say that I should do a movie out of my story.
I think you should. That's like a really interesting. I mean, that's a scary time to be diagnosed and to go through
It
that
sounds
point.
like a zombie apocalypse movie. Like you're in the
Yeah,
hospital and then like the zombie apocalypse hits and you go out and like everything is like changed.
yeah.
Oh
It's
my
like The
God.
Walking Dead when
So, yeah,
Yeah,
right?
he goes into the hospital and then like he wakes up.
We've lost our minds.
No, no, but it's true. It's true. Like he wakes up and now the zombies are there.
But it is true because
yeah,
COVID did feel like a very surreal experience. I know for us it was just like here in Florida it was insane. But was your doctor, like your oncologist, like following you through COVID? Because it was a crazy time and in the hospitals and COVID was so at that time no one knew anything.
yeah, yeah. So the answer to that is actually no. I mean,
Oh my God.
um, and at first I wasn't with an oncologist. I was just working with the urologist because it was bladder cancer.
Right,
So
right, right.
even the immunotherapy drugs was coming through the urologist. It was, and
Okay.
not to get gross, but it wasn't a fun experience having tubes like stuck into you and pumping
Hmm.
drugs into you. It was very, very painful. All my pride went out the window. Like I have no sense of like, humbleness or pride anymore. When people start prodding you and poking you, 5, 6, 7 times a week, it's like, okay, whatever. Here's my body. Do whatever you want.
We
Yeah.
relate.
Unfortunately, we do relate. Yeah, it definitely like you. Yeah, you just have to do what you have to do. Even if it's uncomfortable and ugly. You
It
know.
it it,
Yeah.
it humbles you. I mean,
Oh yeah.
even as a caregiver, I mean, you're just like sleeping in a room that people walk in every moment and don't knock.
Yeah.
And of course, like we spent so many months in the hospital
Yeah,
and it's true. It humbles you, especially about your body. Yeah.
it's so
Without
true.
getting gross, we can relate to exactly what you're talking
And
about.
was it just immunotherapy the second time?
Or no, what happened? No, you
So
have a story about the second time.
Yeah.
so the second time, I was talking to my urologist on and off, but they weren't allowed to like administer drugs or treat the cancer. Everything was about COVID. They were sent to other stations. The hospitals were also overflowing. When
Yeah.
when I when
Yeah.
I when I was diagnosed with COVID, they put me on a stretcher and they put me in a closet. Like there was no room for the first like I would say 8 hours. I was on the stretcher alone in this closet because they had nowhere to put people.
Oh
And then
my God.
finally, I got moved to a room. I watched the guy next to me pass away. That was horrifying.
Wow.
It was just the craziest 3 weeks. And then when I finally when things started to like clear up, my urologist said this is probably about 2 months after COVID hit, 2 months after I was in the hospital. So like here I have
Mm.
this cancer in my body. It's not being treated.
Oh my God.
So he said,
And you knew it was in your body.
oh yeah, and your mindset. And I hadn't done the spiritual work yet. I mentioned before I had met that spiritual mentor who was
I was
still in
actually
my
going to
life.
ask, was she still in
Yeah,
your life?
she was still in my life, and she was a godsend. She got me through the COVID time, and I learned so much from her. I'm grateful for her and the tribe around me.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest pieces to the cancer journey or healing is who's around you. Who's around you, who stays with you thick and thin. Who's that voice of reason or just a listening ear when you're falling apart and you want to cry and you can't be strong. When fear strikes or you're trying to navigate that, and mind you, I've created this this person is really me, but I also created this person where a lot of people come to me for support. And here I am, I need support now, right? And I didn't know how
Yeah.
to ask for support. So that tribe around you becomes really, really, really crucial. Um, so I forgot what I was going to say. So yeah, so she had gotten me, through that COVID chapter, um, but there was still no trials being released. There was not certain drugs couldn't be used at that time. So the doctor said, "Well, we still have some of this immunotherapy, in the closet or on ice. So it worked the first time. So while we're waiting for the medical system to work out, why don't we put you back on that drug?" Sure, cool.
Okay.
I was just going, I was just going with the advice, right?
Right.
So they put me back on that drug, and it didn't work that time.
Okay.
But I also believe a lot of it had to do with COVID. My immune system was shot, vaccines and shots, and like just my whole body was out of whack. But then I realized, and I guess this is the bigger part of the conversation, because it's been, you know, 4.5, 5 years since then. Cancer honestly became the biggest gift in my life, because it just, after you navigate the emotional pain and I went through a lot. We can go through that whole story, ups and downs and hospital visits and just this journey of like, I went through this journey of Eastern versus Western medicine as well, and different drugs and different treatments. And I've gone to different places around the world and done some pretty crazy like things because I'm like, I'm going to try everything because I'm choosing life, right?
Right.
But the cancer became a gift because it taught me to go deeper within myself. It taught me to like figure out what was going on with the root of me. It was like a messenger to me. It was like telling me something. It was like, nobody in my family has cancer. There's no history of cancer in my family. There's different theories of medically maybe what caused this, but nobody really knows, based on those theories. So I started to go into the emotional stuff. What was the baggage I was holding on to? What pain was I holding on? What were the stories I was telling myself? What was I attached to? What did I need to learn to let go of? So I got into all of that because the bladder, spiritually, they say the bladder is how you release things. So if cancer is forming in the bladder, you're not releasing something. So I went on that journey, and that's been a big part of my life for the last 4 or 5 years. Figuring out who I am, putting myself first, learning how to love myself. The journey back to myself, and that's what I think this cancer has gifted me with.
First, I think we agree about cancer having so many blessings. Like, I would not wish it on my worst enemy. I would not want to tell someone you need to learn a lesson, you should go through cancer.
Right.
However, if you are open to it, as you are, as I've seen Michael is, and many and other people, it can be a gift. I think if you let it be a gift, it can be a gift. Even though I do think it's not just cancer. I think it's when we go through painful situations and painful scenarios, I think that they can be gifts if we're open to that and if we allow ourselves to learn from them. So I love that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. So you said you tried everything.
We both want to ask questions because
you tried the Western and the Eastern medicine, and
we were on the same vibe.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna ask the same question.
Yeah, just what was that like, and like what did you try, and what did you find that like worked for you? And
you did a combo?
You did a combo, I assume.
Yeah, I did a combo, and I'm still navigating this both worlds, right? So
Right.
I tell this story because honestly, I think it's funny. There's nothing funny about cancer, right? At all. But
there's a lot of dark humor and funny stuff
there
with
is funny
cancer, dude.
stuff sometimes.
I'm glad you said that because I was like, I don't want to offend anybody.
No, you're not offending us,
Yeah.
and I think our listeners will agree. We have found a lot of really funny things, but yeah, the dark humor.
And I've tried some weird stuff, right? So So I was actually working with a homeopathic. She was great. Loved her. She was based in upstate New York, and she was great. And she was so attentive to my needs, right? And she said, listen, Hal, she goes, I know a shaman in the UK. You know, I usually associate shamans with indigenous nations, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, so
In the UK. Okay.
I was like, whatever. So I reach out to this guy in the UK, and he says to me, he's going to send me healing. You know, cool. I'm all for that. I'm all about energy. I'm all about long distance healing.
Yes.
I've worked with Reiki before. I know, like anything in the world, I think there are Reiki practitioners that are phenomenal and real, and I think there's ones that are just,
Right.
putting a dollar on it and maybe not as powerful as they think they are, right? So this guy says he's gonna send me healing, but he wants me to wear all white, white from head to toe, So I was like,
Recently, we know someone that was told we're all blue.
oh
So
really?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
So fascinating.
and similar to you, I'm going to say Eastern and Western mix, which anyway we can get into. But go ahead.
So I didn't have white sweatpants or track pants. I had a white t-shirt, So I was like, I had to order on Amazon white sweatpants, right? So I had to pause them for a couple of days. So I reach out to him. I'm like, my white sweatpants came in. So he tells me to meditate. So I lay down on my couch to meditate. I fall asleep. So that was my meditation for the day. And I love meditation. Excuse the cough. I'm sorry. I'm on the tail end of pneumonia too.
Oh
Right
wow.
now.
Oh my God.
It's been a while. So I'm praying I wasn't going to cough on this call, but
It's
it might come
okay.
out.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Don't worry about
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I wake up. I'm embarrassed. He reaches out to me and he says, "Oh, I'm sending you healing." He goes, "You're all healed." Okay. Wasn't feeling all healed. He goes, I got to tell you something. He goes, I got a message while I was sending you healing. He goes, you're going to think it's crazy. He goes, and before you say anything, he goes, I just want you to think about it. He goes, I need you to go to Mexico and see this guy in Mexico. He goes, and I need you to do snake venom.
Oh my gosh.
So
That sounds pretty crazy to me.
I know.
my first thought is, this guy's a whack job.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. In case he's listened to this podcast, loved him.
Of course.
But my first thought, and I would say this to him if he called me, I was like, I thought he was crazy. So I ignored him, got rid of him. I was like, not dealing with that. So fast forward a couple of months, I'm running an event at the school, and big event. I'm running this big conference. I teach kids how to run their own conference. There's like 600 kids at this conference, and the kids are running the workshops and the trainings, and they're feeling really empowered and good about themselves. I go into the bathroom in the middle of this conference, and I bleed all over the place. Just this big, like the tumor inside of me had like opened up, and so now I'm in my school bathroom and I'm bleeding while I'm running this big event, and I'm freaking out, right? So got through the event. I went home. It was Memorial Day weekend because this particular event, the school that I'm in likes to run it the Friday before Memorial Day. So I called my homeopathic, and I said, I'm bleeding. Oh, first I called my doctor. My doctor was away.
Say, are you still?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Are you
right,
still?
I called the urologist. At that point, I'm working with an oncologist, so I skipped all that part, right? So I called the urologist. Can't get a hold of anybody. And at the time, they wanted to do this surgery that my heart and soul was against. They wanted to take out my bladder. They wanted to take out my prostate. They wanted to take out part of my small intestine. They wanted to make a neo bladder. And I was going to be living with tubes sticking out of my body. And I just felt like my heart was telling me that's a last resort. I'm going to figure out how to beat this thing, because I know the human body can heal itself. I just need to figure out the formula, right? I just need to figure out what the answers are. And that was after working with spiritual mentors and meditation and soul searching. And I was like, I've got to figure this out. But at that point, when I saw the blood all over the place, I was like, I give up. I was like, I give it to God. I was like, all right, God, if I'm supposed to have this surgery, let's just do the surgery. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I was scared. I was literally, the fear had taken me over. So I'm thinking I'm going to drive to the hospital, but I'm trying to call the doctor. So it's a holiday weekend. I can't get a hold of anybody.
Right.
So I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I go home, call my homeopathic because she was the most like helpful person at that point, in terms of alternative medicine, right? Um, so I'm on the phone with her and I'm like freaking out. And she says, she goes, Hal, why don't you call that medicine man in Mexico with the snake venom? So
No
I said
way.
to
You
her,
went?
I
Did you
said,
go?
are you, I went. But at first I was like, what?
Wow.
I was like, the guy, crazy shaman guy from the UK. Like, and she was like, hey, listen, she goes, just call him. Like,
What do you
see
have to
if he could.
lose at this point? What do you have to
That's what she
lose?
said. She said, you can't get a hold of the doctor. She goes, you have nothing to lose. Why don't, ask him his advice? Maybe he'll tell you something. Call this guy up. Nicest guy in the world, right? But still, it's weird, right?
Right.
And he goes, Hal, he goes, I'm up by the U.S. border this week. He goes, if you can get a flight into San Diego and come across to Tijuana, he's like, I'll meet you. So I was like, it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm not going to get a cheap flight,
Yeah.
But I Google, get on Priceline, I find a cheap flight, and I'm like, okay, under
Okay.
$300 on Memorial Day weekend to go to San Diego, and I was like, all right,
Okay.
I guess I'm going to come to Mexico, right? So I get on the plane. This is how bad I am. I'm actually writing goodbye notes to like the people I love because the fear had taken me over so much that I was like, this is it. Like, I don't think I'm gonna make it out of this. The pain was bad, the fear was bad. Um, and then everything just got weirder and weirder and weirder. I get to San Diego. I get a cab to the border. I walk across the border. They don't even check my passport. And it just everything was becoming stranger and stranger. Um, I called the guy. He was supposed to have a driver for me at the border. The driver's not at the border. He tells me to get in an Uber. The Uber guy comes up with drives with the Uber sign and then takes the Uber sign off and says, I'll give you a cheaper deal than Uber. And I'm like, okay, where am I? Like, this is
Oh my
insanity.
God.
This is like, I'm sitting here going, this is crazy. What am I doing? Right. And then he doesn't meet me in Tijuana. He tells me to go to the next town. I've never
Okay.
been there. So now I'm lost. I'm in another country.
Oh my God.
And it's so funny because one of the things that stood out to me is on the U.S.-Mexico border. I don't usually talk politics with anybody, but been hearing about like, oh, we got to build a wall, got to build a wall, got to build a wall for years now. There was a wall there, So I was like, there's a wall here. Why is everybody talking about building a wall?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So I'm like, these
That's
are the things
interesting.
in my head right now, like, as I'm driving
Oh
to
my
figure out if
God.
I'm gonna live or die, right?
Wow.
So I meet the guy and his wife at this hotel. I get to this hotel and it's beautiful, Americanized toward the tourist. I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. He meets me at the hotel. He says, let's sit down and have lunch. He's like, I'll talk to you about the snake venom and my history, and tells me his whole story. And I'm like, okay, this is sounding a little bit, maybe I could deal with this. So fast forward, the end of lunch, he goes, let's go up to your hotel room. So now I freak out because I'm thinking we're going to go to like a medical office, or I don't know what I was thinking, like some
Right.
spiritual room or something. He was like, let's go up to your hotel room. So I'm thinking, all right, maybe I'm not going to die from cancer. Maybe I'm going to die from somebody's
This
going to
From
murder
guy.
me in my
snake,
hotel room.
right? Or snake venom. I don't know.
Or
Snake
snake
venom's a little
venom,
bit
right?
scary.
I mean, you're a little wild for trusting him, but I guess like at that point,
Well, at
like
this point,
everything
you
was
were
aligning.
nothing. Yeah, everything was aligning and nothing was working. But like, you had nothing to lose.
I had nothing to lose at that
Right.
point,
I can see
and
that.
I was going on faith. I was talking to God the whole time. I was just like, okay, God,
Yeah.
I gave it to you. So this is
Yeah.
how I'm going to die. This is how I'm going to die. So we get up to the room, tells me to take my shirt off, lay on the bed, and he starts to burn holes into my spine, like little cigarette holes with this piece of wood. And he takes these drops of venom and he puts it into my skin. And he explained it that the concept was that the venom was a low dose and it seeps into your bloodstream and it goes and attacks illnesses. You know, it goes to where it needs, so it attacks the cancer. They left after that. We're going to do 2 more treatments. He was going to meet me the next day. I swear to you, I woke up. I passed out at that point because the emotional exhaustion, freaking out. I passed out for like 12 hours. Woke up the next day. Bleeding was gone. The pain was gone. My energy had come back. And I felt like superhuman, you know, and it was just unbelievable. So I trusted him. I did like 3 trips to Mexico and I felt great. And I really do believe it helped. I think it helped keep it at bay for a real long time. But it's really difficult to get to Mexico all the time to get treatment. So I've been in New York. The last time I had treatment was last summer. And this past September, I found out that the cancer started to spread. So it was stage 1 for about 8 years, you know, stage 1. And now it's spread outside the bladder. It's now in 2 lymph nodes and it's in the pelvic bone. So now I'm getting treatment for that. But I truly believe there's a cross between emotional health, like your own self-belief, Western medicine and Eastern medicine. I feel like those 3 modalities have to come together. And I think that's how we're going to eradicate cancer.
I think
that was a lot.
That was very interesting.
You know what's, oh my God, so I'm captivated. You know what is interesting though? Like, Michael, one of the chemos that he had came from a horse. And this is a Western medicine. But then again, when you talk about the venom and the way it went, like, it's not that different, like, than Atgam that we learned about that came from this. Actually, there was 1 horse for a while, then they ended up there were more. Yeah. And so I can see the crossover. I think it's hard sometimes when people are just say to you, just change your mindset and you're healed, or just believe in God and you're healed. And I think that sometimes is hard. And I think that sometimes that gives people also blame and guilt. And if I can just heal myself by my mindset, that means my mindset caused this. And I think that is where I sometimes, as someone that I love people so deeply, I never want to tell someone they have blame. But I do believe what you just said, those 3 things coming together is the wisest. Like, we have these gifts, I think, from Western medicine. I think there are gifts in Western medicine that have saved his life. The medication, some of the medications 100%. And then I think there are gifts from Eastern medicine, like homeopathy and what you're talking about. Like, I totally see that as well. And then our own spiritual healing is a huge part. Like, we do talk about mindset and the way you believe and the way you feel. Oh my God, Hal, I love you. And I love that you link those 3 things, because I do think that is often what is maybe missing, is that we need a little bit of all. It's not just one.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know have we had it on here that's talked about that before? The combination?
No, we've had people talking about like mindset,
but I don't think we've had anyone who's experienced it firsthand and
like the spiritual journey. I think the spiritual journey is so important, and I do think that's a missing piece, and that's like the missing piece on the Western side, is that we don't get enough in touch with our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual. Like, sometimes we'll talk about emotional, we'll talk about therapy, or, but spiritual, I think, is really important. I want to shut up. I want you to talk more. You are captivating.
Yeah, I have so many questions.
You guys are captivating. Ask questions. I do want to share this, though. So
go ahead.
I had a couple of friends, and I love them to death, but they were making fun of me for the venom. constantly, like making
That's
fun of me,
funny.
telling me I'm crazy, right? And even I thought I was a little crazy.
Of course
About
you
a,
did. And
of
it took you
course,
time. It took you time to
took me
get to
time.
it. Yeah.
The, about a month and a half ago, the New York Times came out with an article. The new GLP-1 drugs for
Yeah.
weight loss. Um, the research behind that came from snake venom,
That's so
and
interesting.
the title of the article was "What else can snake venom heal?"
Yeah.
So it was talk. So they started to do research in the U.S. around the I guess it's the peptides. I don't know the science of
Right.
the snake venom, but there's something in the snake venom that apparently can heal certain illnesses. So there is research now in the U.S. behind this, which is really interesting.
It is
That's so cool.
interesting.
Yeah, I've never even heard of snake venom curing anything before. So it's interesting. Like no one's ever mentioned it. Like I get a lot of comments on social media. People tell me like dog dewormer or eat this
Yeah.
food or
I've heard
do
that.
Yeah,
this or go fasting or
Listen
stop.
to this meditation.
Yeah, like all that type of stuff. But I've never
yeah.
heard snake venom. So that's pretty
But it
cool.
makes, but it does make sense. It does make sense because some of our chemotherapy, some of our immunotherapies, where they come from.
Right.
Not everything is synthetic. Some of it. Oh, this is so fascinating. So where are you at? Where are you at now?
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. I've learned, and I don't know if this is. I'd be curious, Michael, to hear your like take on this. Um, I don't like calling it cancer anymore. I call it blocked energy from a spiritual lens, right? Like I know
Mm.
there's energy blocked in my body, and I know I still need work. Um, I have good days and bad days. I don't want to paint like the picture. Like I've had pneumonia for the last 9 weeks. I started a new chemotherapy drug at the beginning of January that kicked my butt. You
Yeah.
know, it just the vomiting, the nausea, neuropathy in my fingers and toes. Um, I didn't think I was going to go the chemotherapy route, but I'm open to both Eastern and Western, right? And um, I didn't expect that my body was going to take the hit that it's taken in the last 9 weeks. It's a feeling that I have my moments where I get scared, but I feel like I've had so much spiritual mentoring that I'm like, this fear isn't real. Like I just need to stay positive and push through. But it's hard. Even now with this cough, it's like it doesn't go away, right? It's like I can stand up after this podcast and go to the bathroom and maybe vomit, and it comes out of like nowhere. You don't know. It's hard to plan things and do things. And in the same breath, I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago.
Oh,
So it's like
right.
I'm sitting here paying attention to all of it. Almost like you remove yourself, and you like watch, like, okay, what is my body doing? What is it saying to me? Um, am I loving myself enough? Am I giving myself enough self-love? Am I caring for myself enough? Am I eating right? Do I have the right people around me? Am I balancing myself? Because I tend to still make some of those mistakes where it's like, oh, I can have that piece of fried chicken, and I'm like, then I'm a mess,
Right.
for the next 2 days, or I'm like, all right, I'm healthy enough to go to this event, and then I go to the event and I'm in bed for 4 days, so like still learning what I can do and what I can't do, which is a challenge. So right now, my mindset is there's a reason for all this. Part of the reason I wanted to be on your podcast is because there's this integration going on. Because it's almost like two people, right? Like two versions of me. There's this guy who's all about transforming education and, releasing these books and telling these stories. And then there's this guy who has been diagnosed with cancer, that's getting these deep, profound lessons. So when I look at transforming education, really why I want to transform the education system is because I want people to see that they all have a gift. I want people to be able to activate the passion inside of them. I want them people to know that they all matter, that they have a light inside of them, that they just haven't been taught how to find that light switch and turn it on, right? You know, and then I look at the guy that was diagnosed with cancer, and those are the things that I'm learning. I'm learning like how to activate my own passion, how to turn that light switch on, how to realize that I matter. So there's like an integration going on of these two worlds now. It's like the cancer experience is becoming part of a deeper part of who I am to help transform other souls. So I know that that's part of my purpose, very similar to how you guys are doing this podcast. Like you're taking your experiences and just this beautiful story, and you help holding space to transform souls with your website and your social media. Like it's beautiful what you're doing. It's like taking pain and turning it into purpose. And I think that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to
Pain
figure
into
out
purpose.
We say
pain
that
into
pain
purpose.
into purpose.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yes,
do.
pain
We
into
do.
purpose, the beauty and the pain.
Yeah. And I hope you're feeling okay doing this
But I
podcast right now.
know.
I
Like,
do. I feel
okay.
great. I
Okay.
wasn't going to miss this, you know.
Okay.
So power outages, nothing can stop us.
I know.
I know we had our Wi-Fi go out.
Literally,
yeah.
but I have had tears in my eyes for like the last 10 minutes. I'm like just so welled up with emotion by everything. But don't you think so often we teach what we need to learn, or we get the lessons
So true.
that we need? Like listening to you say that, I can relate to that so deeply. Even though I'm not the one physically going through the cancer, it's true it was my husband and it's Michael, but I still feel like these are like the things I need to teach, and the lessons I need to learn are just like come right at you.
I think you as a mom and your story is so powerful. You remind me of the tribe around me, you know, that it's like we need souls like your souls. You know, I'm sure Michael probably said this a million times. Like I'm sure he could not have gone through this journey without you. Like
Definitely not. I'd be dead.
right. That's exactly how I feel. Like the tribe that I had, I would have died in that hospital during COVID if I didn't have my spiritual mentor by my side. If I didn't have the spiritual people I met along the way, like I just wouldn't be. You know, it's priceless.
Is there any conflict? But it doesn't sound like it. Like with your homeopath and with the person that you keep relating to as your spiritual guide, did they have any conflict? Because I do think you have to go with your heart. I had a conversation with someone recently that went through cancer 30 years ago, did well, relapsed, went through a different cancer, did great for like 20 years, and recently is going through another cancer. And he feels like this time, interesting because I think you're probably similar ages, that he is going through a spiritual journey, which he didn't go through the first two times. But we've talked about, like, we've had conversations with him, with Michael as well, about like the spiritual with, as we were talking about with you, with the Eastern, with the Western together. But I was going to say to you, do you feel like there's any conflict with because some of his like spiritual guides are a little bit opposed to him following the Western, because he's doing both. And how has that been for you? Has there been
There hasn't been a conflict, but there has been mutual growth. You know, I think I was really blessed because the spiritual mentor that I'm referring to really invested in me, like, you know, as a friend, as a spiritual like partner and being. And I remember one of the things she said to me in the beginning of this is like, the universe is strange because her biggest fear was losing somebody to cancer. And she does spiritual counseling for so many people, but that was one of her biggest fears. And here she's now connected to another being who now, you know, the month we met is the month I got diagnosed with cancer. It was wild for both of us. She's very insightful. I remember one of the things, another very, very quick story. I'm sorry to keep throwing stories at you.
Tell us the stories.
I was getting my hair done, And my
If people are
hairdresser,
not watching on YouTube, we have to say you got, even through chemo, you got some good hair. He's got like
I've
long, cool
I've
locks.
actually lost a lot of it. It's I
Really?
can't you can't even tell, but like the
Looks pretty good.
the texture is
Yeah.
a lot thinner. It's back here, like I've had to like straighten it and pull it because it's just a crumpled mess. And so anyway, my hairdresser says, "Oh, I know this spiritual chiropractor that cures cancer."
Right.
Cool,
Right.
right? So
Right.
so I told my spiritual mentor, and I was like, I called to tell my spiritual mentor, I'm like, I got another like crackpot story, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she was like, no, Hal, like you need to contact this person. I have a weird feeling about this, you know? And I was like, really? And she stayed on me for like 3 or 4 weeks. She's like, did you call that chiropractor? I was like, no, I'm not calling that chiropractor. Long story short, I ended up calling the chiropractor. I caved eventually and fell in love with them. You know, they
Um,
were just and I don't think that it was about them curing cancer. It was about more positive people in your life, good
yes.
energy,
Yes.
walking into the office that was just had this healing modality, this healing feeling. People caring about other people wanting to be the best versions of themselves. And that made a real difference. So no conflict, but sometimes we're like, she's like, you should try this, and I'm like, no, you know, so vice versa, you know. But she also believes in integration of Western and Eastern medicine. It's really, really
Yeah.
key.
I believe very strongly, very, very strongly in that.
Yeah.
I
Should we
keep
ask?
I keep asking the questions. I need to let Michael ask some
Well, I
questions.
want to ask you some fun questions because we've been so
Yeah, let's do it.
serious.
I know, but wait.
I listened to some of your
I
other
just
podcasts, and I love some of the fun questions you
okay,
ask.
we're gonna do the fun ones, but I just have to say I just love you. You just like my
Oh,
heart is like
no.
huge in my I mean, I have a big heart anyway, but you just filled me up like literally I've been teary this entire time. You're just I was a little bit can I just say one thing really quick? I was a little bit worried. I was like, if he's only going to talk about Eastern, then maybe we'll have a little bit of a conflict. Not a conflict. It was going to be interesting for me because we do kind of feel this integration that we can integrate like the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, the
Yeah.
Western, the Eastern. There is an integration. And so I said to Michael, I hope it's not someone that's like dog dewormer.
Yeah.
I haven't
but
tried that.
but then
Maybe you should try
I
it.
was like Regina, who recommended you, who introduced us. I was like, I love Regina with all my heart, so I know that if she wanted you on this to introduce us, there was a reason, another reason. So all right,
Yes.
dude, let's go with some fun questions because it's
Let's do it.
true. We have to ask some fun stuff just for fun.
Yes.
Yeah. What's a superpower you wish you had?
Oh, it's such a great question. I heard you ask that on another podcast
Of
too, so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cheating. I was
It's
like, I
not
hope he asks me
cheating.
that
It's
question.
preparation. And you were like a
Preparation.
social worker in
It's
the
I love
school. So that
asking that
means you
question.
study. That means you study your notes.
I feel like I have two answers to that question. So I think one superpower that I wish I have is that I wish I could just connect to somebody and they can automatically see the light and love that they are. Like they can see their own
Oh
Oh
power.
wow, that
my
I've never heard that
God.
before.
My heart, which was already like, oh, now I'm really going to cry again.
Well,
Oh,
but the superficial answer is I wish I was Superman. Period. Like I love Superman.
I
that's awesome.
know.
I
The
love the
Christopher
Superman.
Reeves, I don't know how old you are, but I do know
Christopher
you
Reeve is the
have
best.
a son that's married. So, okay, Christopher Reeve, Superman, right?
Yes, Christopher Reeve. Nobody will ever. I went to the movie theater to see the documentary. Like such,
Oh,
and even his story.
Because he's crippled now, right?
oh,
He
he
passed
passed
away, right?
away.
He passed
He's
Oh.
away,
passed
but
away.
but if
But
you watch his
he was.
story, even though it wasn't cancer, the mindset,
Yeah,
the watching his story is so empowering
I need to
to
see it.
the will to live is incredible. Like he is literally Superman, like
Yeah,
in real
oh,
life.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
And I'm a hopeless romantic, so the Superman Lois Lane story,
Me
you know,
too.
sacrificing who you are and not being able to have your true love. I'm like one of those guys. I watch The Notebook, and I'm like, I cry at the end all the time, thinking like, which one is she gonna pick? Which one is she gonna pick? Even though I've seen the movie 100 times. Like,
I forgot that movie. I
Oh
forgot
my
that.
gosh, I love that.
I don't know if I've seen it.
Okay, this is like sort of fun, but is there one person in the world that's had the most impact on you? And that's such a hard. I know whenever we ask this, people are like, "Oh my God, how do I pick one?"
You can
But
just
is there
talk about one
someone?
person. You don't have to choose, but you can just talk
Yeah,
about someone who's had a lot of impact.
I mean, the spiritual mentor that
Right.
I shared,
I got that.
she was profoundly had a huge impact on me
Yeah.
on many levels. That would probably be the one person I picked, but my son,
Mm.
my son also, like when he was born, that's a long story too. I didn't know I was about to have a son. We were kids, we were teenagers, and my life was a mess. And then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, I have this baby, and I'm like, I need to do something with my life because I don't want him to grow up seeing this crazy kid that I am doing these crazy things. I want him to grow up feeling like proud of his dad, and we became best friends. He's still my best friend. So I think he, in a lot of ways, saved my life because he helped me to like wake up and become the best version of me, so that he can have someone to look up to.
That's so beautiful. I know. I think sometimes people have the idea that when we have kids, like we're going to teach them. But for me, I always felt like my three kids, each one of them came into my life and taught me a lesson. And like
Yeah,
still to this day, they still teach me so much. It's like, yes, I'm the parent, but oh my goodness, the things that they have taught me. But they also do make you kind of step up as well, right? Our
yeah.
kids make us like step up. And yeah, I have so many things I can say about parenting because it's changed me in every single way.
And if I
Um,
could pick a third person,
you can pick
I,
a third
I
person.
have to because I know she's going to watch this. I have to
Oh,
pick Regina.
of course.
Ah,
you
that's the
know,
one that connected us, and I love
she
that
connected
woman.
us.
Same.
She's great.
I
She's
love
really
that
She's
great.
woman.
great.
She
Yeah.
is. I will agree with that. All right, do you want to do one?
Yeah. What's your? Okay. I think I maybe know what your favorite movie is, but
Well, is it the Notebook
yeah,
or is it Superman? But it sounds like
yeah.
it's the Notebook.
And The Notebook is definitely one of my favorite. I'm a
Okay.
hopeless romantic, but
Yeah,
I also love a lot of movies.
yeah,
I'm a
me
movie
too.
buff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Ah,
a big Fast and Furious guy.
Okay.
I love cars. Um,
fun. We didn't know this about you. See, there's too many things
yeah.
to learn.
I think it was Fast Five or Fast Four. He's driving the black Oldsmobile when they're going after the oil truck.
Okay.
I had that car when I was like 21 years old. Yeah,
That's so cool.
That's
I don't want
cool.
to ask how
the
old
Grand
are
National.
how old are you? I mean, you don't have to tell, but
I tell everybody I'm 33 and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. Okay, 33 is a nice age. We'll
It's a great
take it.
age, right?
We'll
Yeah.
think you're a tiny bit older. You were a teenager and you have a son that's
The
married,
birth
but
the
who
the birth
knows?
certificate might say something else, but
33
it's all
sounds
mindset.
33 sounds good. I'm like
Yeah.
33 plus.
50 is the new 20. Let's just leave it at that.
I'll take
Yeah.
it.
All
I'll take it.
right. I want to ask you.
Yeah.
This is more serious. What's like your greatest lasting message you want people to know from what you've been through and what you've learned
And
over
this isn't
these
like your
years?
dying message because you're not
No, no,
dying.
no. It's no, no,
This is
no.
just like lasting message. So
Drum
someone
roll.
listening to this is like, what's the message you want someone to hear?
It's really simple. Is I want, well, a couple things. I want everybody to know that they matter. That they
Yes.
matter, that they're here for a purpose. Um, no matter what you've been through or what you're going through, you can overcome it. And that everyone has a gift, a talent, a light inside of themselves, that needs to shine and should shine. Everyone has passion inside of them. Passion isn't something you find; it's something you activate. You just need to learn how to activate it. You just need to go inside and find the light switch and turn that light on. Um, if I could just leave the planet, people knowing that they matter and that we had the systems in humanity to support that discovery, to support everybody finding their light. One, will have world peace. The planet will move forward. We'll solve all the problems. Because right now we're all destroying each other, and there's so much negativity and hurt and pain.
Hal, you should run for president.
No.
God bless you.
Oh, goodness. We wish you were president without running for president, though. You should just be president. Like, don't want you to go through the whole trials and tribulations of running, because that does not look fun at all.
No,
I cannot imagine that, but
I need a little bit more money in the bank account before I could run for president.
I love that message. I love what you said, everyone. I think that's beautiful. Everyone does have a light. It needs to be activated, though, and like a passion. That is beautiful. All right, we have a last question, and it's this one is like, if you knew tomorrow were your last day, what would you do today?
I also have 2 answers for that.
You can have 3.
Oh, good. One of my favorite places on this planet are the oh my God, I'm going to forget the name of the place. The Blue Mountains? Blue Mountains? Yeah, I think the Blue Mountains in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I think one of my favorite memories ever that I had on this planet was in those mountains. So my first answer is, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, I would love to recreate that memory and, be there with the people I love,
Nature, beautiful.
That's the first answer. The second answer is probably a common answer. People always will. So funny that you asked this question. One of the curriculums I wrote in the school system that I'm in is I actually do a lesson called 24 Hours. And I tell the kids at the start of the class that, doctor, they went to the doctor's office and they were diagnosed, with an illness. They have 24 hours to live. What are they going to do with their 24 hours? And they have to be anonymous, right? And then we pass out the cards and we switch them around. At the end of the activity, after we read all the cards out loud, we find out who their favorite were, who their favorite weren't. I tell them that the doctor made a mistake and they're not going to die. So, like, do they regret their decision now? And why do we not do the things that we say we're going to? Why do we need to wait to find out you only have 24 hours to live to do the thing? So, right. One of the most popular answers always is, I'm going to spend time with family and friends. Always. So that's my second answer, but with a twist. Regina is the lead singer in my band. We've been in a band together for 27 years, since I was 6.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, since you were 6. Okay.
Right. So the band is what Regina and I call is our chosen family. And we have a whole community of people that always come out to our shows and see us perform. So if I knew I had 24 hours to live, I would want my family and my friends and my band to be together, performing, playing music one last time. That would be everything. That would be everything to me. And then my third answer, since you gave me a third thing, I think the third most important group of people in my life are my students that I've met through the years. So I'd like to be in a big circle with any of my students that would want to come back and like have one last powwow.
We're going to let you do them all. So you're going to go to the mountains, you're going to have that memory, then you're going to go back and you're going to have that big old concert, or maybe it all happens in the mountains and you like do the concert in the mountains with all the friends around and a big circle of students. Like, why not? Let's put it all together.
I'm down for that.
It's the Eastern, the Western, and the spiritual all together. We can
really
do them
is.
all. Oh my goodness. Well,
Doctor just has to give me 3 days to live. That's all.
we hope you have many more than 3 days.
Me too.
And
And
oh my
same
gosh,
for both of you.
what a joy
Yeah, thank
to
you so
speak to you.
much
Thank you for sharing your story.
for being on our podcast and sharing your story. It was so meaningful, and we learned so much from you today. So, thank you.
That was
Thank
absolutely
you.
beautiful. You brought me to tears, and your story, you're just captivating. So we're honored that you are willing to share.
Yes. And this is
Your
an
story.
official goodbye from your host, Michael Kramer.
And the other host, Ashley Kramer, and our beautiful guest, Hal Eisenberg. We're going to put your website and everything in the description so people can find you. But thank you, Hal.
Thank you so much. I apologize for the coughing. Thank you for all the beautiful work that you are both doing. Keep changing the world and rocking the world with your message. And until we meet again.
Oh, I
Yes.
loved every moment. Thank you so much. And everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. Mwah.